My name is Ryan Bennett. I'm 34, American, and I make bathtubs for a living. Not the luxury spa crap you see in magazines. Real tubs that end up in normal houses, in neighborhoods where people argue about bills and mow their own lawns. 7 years earlier, I took out a modest loan, signed my name on a stack of paper that made my hands sweat, and started a small manufacturing plant with 2 machines and 4 guys willing to work cheap. By the year this story started, I had 42 people on payroll and we were supplying stores in 3 states. That mattered to me. Those paychecks had kids' names behind them. My wife, Lauren, didn't come from that world. She was 33 in marketing, the kind of woman who could walk into a loud room and own it in 5 minutes. Big laugh, big presence, always talking to 3 people at once while I stood off to the side. More comfortable with numbers and production schedules than small talk. The year-end party was my idea. My way of saying thanks. I rented a mid-range event hall on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but it had a bar, a decent sound system, and space for people to bring their spouses and kids if they wanted. We put up Christmas lights, cheap garland, red and gold ornaments. I hired a DJ who played a mix of old rock and whatever passed for party music that year. We had buffet tables loaded with wings, sliders, and trays of stuff I couldn't pronounce but the office staff said people liked. I wore a dark suit I saved for weddings and bank meetings. Lauren walked out of the bedroom in a red dress that hit just above her knees and made 3 steps down our hallway feel like a runway. I remember thinking, good, let them see I outkicked my coverage. First, she stayed by my side. We moved through the crowd together, me shaking hands, clapping shoulders, telling guys I appreciated them. I thanked the line workers for sticking through overtime, the office team for dealing with my late-night emails, the shipping crew for surviving the holiday chaos. Lauren did what she did best, laughing, asking questions, remembering people's kids' names better than I did. That's when she drifted toward Mike. Michael Davis, everyone called him Mike, was my production manager. 37, solid, the guy I trusted to keep the floor moving when I was off chasing new contracts. Ex-military, neat handwriting on his reports, the sort of man you don't micromanage because he'd earned the leash. I saw him standing near the bar, talking with a couple of the guys from line 2. Lauren peeled off toward him like it was the most natural thing in the world. I didn't think much of it. She liked talking to people, and Mike and I were close enough that her being friendly with him felt normal. Time moved in chunks. Songs, conversations, drinks I nursed more than finished. Every time I glanced over, I saw flashes of Lauren's red dress somewhere in the room. Laughing at a joke, leaning in to hear someone over the music, looping back to me for a quick squeeze of my arm before being pulled into another conversation. Around 10 o'clock, I realized I hadn't seen that red dress in a while. It registered as a small flicker at first. I was midway through a conversation with one of the older machinists about a new order when my eyes did a quick sweep of the room and came up empty. No Lauren. No red. I finished the conversation, told the guy I appreciated him, and then checked my phone. No texts. I sent her one. You good? No answer. 10 minutes passed. I made another loop around the hall, nodding at people, half listening to a joke from one of the drivers, eyes still scanning. Nothing. I told myself she was probably in the restroom, or talking to someone in the hallway, or helping one of the spouses with something. 15 minutes. I texted again. Where'd you disappear to? Still nothing. The knot started low, just under my ribs. Familiar, like the feeling before a bad meeting. I told myself I was being stupid. She was here to support me. She knew everyone. This was a party, not a prison. I caught one of the younger women from the front office as she walked by. Hey, Jenna, I said. Have you seen Lauren? She hesitated just a fraction. I saw her a little bit ago, she said. Maybe in the restroom? Can you check? I asked. Make sure she's okay? Yeah, of course. Jenna disappeared into the hallway. I stood there pretending to be interested in whatever song the DJ had switched to. People laughed, clinked glasses, and lined up at the bar. On the surface, it was exactly what I wanted. A successful year, a room full of employees celebrating together. Inside, that knot tightened. Jenna came back a few minutes later. She wouldn't look me straight in the eye. She's not in there, she said softly. I think she went outside. With Mike. The name landed harder than it should have. Outside where? I asked. Garden area, she said, gesturing toward a side door. I saw them go out a while ago. How long is a while? She swallowed. Maybe an hour? I'm not sure. Sorry. I thanked her and walked toward the door, each step heavier than the last. I could have turned around. Could have told myself I was overreacting. A boss and his production manager's casual smoke break with the boss's wife. Nothing illegal about it. The door opened to a small garden space. String lights overhead, a couple of benches, fake stone planters. Empty. Just cold air and the echo of distant music leaking from inside. I stood there under those lights, looking at nothing, the knot in my stomach pulling tight enough to hurt. Every instinct I had, every long night and gut call that built my business whispered the same thing. Something's wrong. I took a slow breath, shoved it down, and gave it another name. Paranoia, I told myself. You're tired. It's been a year. Let it go. So I did what too many men do when the first crack shows up. I walked back into the party, put on my smile, and pretended not to see it. I woke up before the alarm out of habit, like I always did. Years of running a plant will do that. Your body learns to beat the clock. The house was quiet. Lauren was a lump under the duvet, hair spilled over her pillow, breathing slow and even. For a second, I let myself believe the knot from the night before was just leftover stress and cheap whiskey. I went downstairs, started the coffee, and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. Inbox was full of the usual supplier emails, a reminder from accounting, a note from a regional buyer about next quarter. I answered a couple, flagged a few, let the normal routine settle in. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. Then it didn't really stop. At first, I thought something had gone wrong at the plant. Accident. Fire. Machine down. I grabbed the phone and glanced at the screen. Unknown numbers. Local area codes. Social media notifications. Texts from people I barely remembered. Is this real? Bro, is this your wife? You need to see this now. My hands went cold before I even opened anything. One text had a link with no caption. Just a single shocked face emoji. I tapped it. The video is loaded in a small square. Grainy at first, then sharper. I knew the room before I knew the people. My admin office. My desk in the background. The framed certificate on the wall. Slightly crooked because I kept meaning to fix it. The cheap plant Lauren told me made the place look human. And then, right there against the wall, clear as daylight. The red dress. Lauren. Her hands in Mike's hair. His hands on her waist. Her head tilted back like she was in some dark bar with a stranger. Not in my office on my property. The first reaction was stupid. That's not her. It's a trick of the light. A bad angle. My brain threw out anything it could to hold off reality for 5 more seconds. Then she turned her head just enough, and I saw her face. Game over. The denial snapped, clean and fast. What replaced it wasn't even anger at first, it was detail. That's my office. That's my desk. That's my production manager. That's my wife. Those are my walls. I looked at the top of the video. View count rolling. Tens, then hundreds climbing while I stared. Comments stacking underneath. Damn. In the boss's office? I knew something was off with them. It finally leaked. That line hit harder than the image. Finally leaked. Like the whole world had been waiting for this while I walked around shaking hands and saying Merry Christmas. The humiliation came next. Heavy. Thick. It wasn't just that they did it. It was that they did it there, in my space, and now everyone with a phone could watch me get blindsided on repeat. I scrolled through the comments, each one another cut. Small town, big drama. Poor bastard. He's probably at home asleep right now. I wasn't asleep. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and a phone vibrating itself across the wood, watching my private life become a joke. Upstairs, I heard the bed springs shift, Lauren moving, unaware. That knot from the night before? It wasn't paranoia. It was my last warning. And now it is gone. There was nothing left to doubt. I stood in the bedroom doorway and watched my wife sleep like the internet wasn't on fire with her face. Lauren was on her side, one arm over the pillow, mouth slightly open, peaceful. My phone was still buzzing in my hand. I looked at her, then at the screen, and something in me just clicked into place. Not rage, not tears, just a hard, quiet line. I stepped into the hall and called Tom Harrison. He'd been my roommate in college. Now he was a lawyer who made a living off other people's bad decisions. He picked up on the second ring. "Ryan, you've seen it," I said. Long exhale. "Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry," I said. "What do I need to do to protect myself and the business?" That shifted him into work mode. "You've got cameras at the plant, right? Everywhere but the bathrooms. Good. Get the footage. 6 months if you can. Any sign she used your office like a hotel, we use it. Company property, during work hours, all of it." "I'll get it." We hung up. I texted Carl, my tech guy. "Needs 6 months of security footage from all office cameras. External drive. No questions." He replied a minute later. "On it, boss." Then there was nothing to do but wait. Lauren shuffled into the kitchen half an hour later in her robe. Hair messy, eyes still soft from sleep. "You didn't wake me," she said, grabbing a mug. "What time did we even get home?" "Late," I said. I was already at the table. The video pulled up and paused on a frame where she and Mike were pressed together. My office in the background. Red dress, no way to pretend it was someone else. "Sit down," I told her. She frowned but did. I turned the phone and slid it across the table. Her eyes dropped. She saw the thumbnail first, then hit play with a shaking finger. I watched her face more than the screen. The instant recognition, the blood draining, the hand going to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Ryan, How long?" I asked. "Please, we were drunk. It was..." "How long?" Her eyes filled, but I didn't care. Tears weren't evidence. "A few months," she said finally. "It wasn't serious. It just happened." "How many times in my office?" She stared at the table. "I don't know. Ballpark it. 5? 6? I'm not sure." "Ryan, it didn't mean anything. I swear. It meant enough to do it on my desk." I cut in. "And in my building. While I was paying both your bills." She reached for my hand. I moved it away. I hit Mike's name and put the call on speaker. He answered on the third ring, voice rough. "Yeah, it's Ryan," I said. "You're fired." Silence. "What?" "You're done. You used my office for your personal life. You disrespected my marriage and my company. You'll bring your keys and any company property to my office by noon. If you don't, I'll let my lawyer get creative. Do you understand?" "Ryan, come on, man, Do you understand?" A beat. "Yeah." "Good." I hung up. Lauren was crying now. "You're really firing him? Over us? You're going to blow up everything over one mistake." "Months," I said. "You said months." I stood up, went to the bedroom, pulled one of the suitcases from the closet, and started loading her clothes into it. Neat, folded, controlled. She followed me in, still talking. "Can we at least talk about this? You've been married to your job for years. Ryan, you're never home. You're always at that damn factory. You don't even..." I zipped the suitcase and looked her in the eye. "Loving the life I built is not the same as loving me," I said. "You had options that didn't involve my employee and my office." Her mouth snapped shut. "You're not sleeping here," I went on. "Tom's starting divorce paperwork. You can go to your mom's. I'm changing the locks today. Anything else you need, you go through my lawyer." "So that's it?" she asked, voice rising. "You're just throwing me out?" "No," I said. "You threw yourself out. I'm just opening the door." I carried the suitcase to the front hallway and set it by the door. That was the last morning I let anyone in my house who couldn't respect my name. I closed my office door and let the noise of the factory drop to a dull hum. The external drive Carl gave me that morning felt heavier than it should have. Black plastic, silver connector, no emotion of its own. I plugged it in, opened the folders, and saw dates stacked like a countdown. 6 months of my life, recorded in silence. I clicked the first clip from 3 months back, midday timestamp. The camera angle was fixed on the admin office, my office, and the door in the corner of the frame. Nothing for the first 30 seconds. Then Lauren and Mike walked in like they owned the place. No hesitation, no nerves, laughing about something I couldn't hear. They weren't drunk. It was bright out. Work hours. I checked my calendar. At that exact time, I was off-site meeting a supplier. I watched their body language, the easy familiarity, the way they stood too close, touched too casually. Then the moment they crossed the line, quick checks toward the door, then hands where they didn't belong. I stopped the video before it went further. I didn't need to see the rest. The point wasn't what they did. It was where and how often. Next file. Different day. Same office. Same pattern. Over and over again, across months of footage, they appeared like clockwork. Never at night. Never on weekends. Always when my schedule had me on the floor or out of the building. They'd talk, joke, lean on my desk, block my certificates with their backs. The betrayal got heavier, but what really started to burn was the casualness. No rush, no fear, just arrogance. Then I hit the clip that changed everything. They were standing near my desk mid-conversation. Lauren was smoothing her dress, laughing. Mike said something I couldn't hear, and she answered clear enough for the camera to catch it. "He'll never suspect a thing," she said, rolling her eyes. "He's too busy with the new orders." Mike asked something. Probably, "What if someone tells?" Because Lauren laughed again and shook her head. "Who'd have the guts to tell the boss?" she said. I felt my stomach twist. That was it. Not just cheating. Contempt. A private joke built on the idea that I was blind and everyone else was scared. I organized the footage into folders, dates, times, incidents. I backed it up, then sent everything to Tom with a short message. "Use all of it," he called an hour later. "This is gold," he said. "Adultery on record, misuse of your property, clear pattern over months. We'll make sure you're not paying her to walk away." I said, "Good." But my mind wasn't on the court. I kept seeing her mouth form those words on loop. "He'll never suspect a thing." She was wrong. I suspect now. And I wasn't going to miss another thing again. The next morning, I called a company-wide meeting for 9 a.m. No explanation. Just a message from HR mandatory. By 9, all 42 people were in the main floor space. Line workers in their boots, office staff clutching coffee, a few spouses who'd carpooled looking confused. I stood on the small platform we usually used for safety briefings. My notes were in my pocket, untouched. I didn't need them. The room felt wrong, too quiet for that many bodies. Some people stared at the floor. Some looked right at me, waiting. A few tried to meet my eyes and then flinched away. "Morning," I said. "I'll keep this short." My voice sounded normal, which surprised me. Steady. Businesslike. "I'm not going to pretend you don't know why we're here," I went on. "Most of you have seen the video. If you haven't, you've heard about it." No one moved. No one needed me to specify what video. "It was filmed in my admin office," I said. "On company property. During work hours. It involved my production manager and my wife." A muscle in my jaw jumped. I let it. That was the only crack I gave them. "One part of that is my personal life," I said. "We're handling it. Lawyers are involved. That's not your problem." I scanned the room. The 3 guiltiest ones were easy to spot. 2 line workers and 1 office girl who suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. "But this is also a workplace issue," I continued. "This company exists to manufacture products and pay people so they can take care of their families. It is not a backdrop for people to blow up their marriages." A few heads nodded, small, quick. "Michael Davis has been terminated for cause," I said. "Effective immediately. He abused his position and this facility. He will not be back on this floor." I let that hang. I could feel the question in the air. "What about us?" "I'm going to say something plainly," I said. "Anyone who knew what was going on and kept quiet didn't just lie to me as a man. You lied to me as your employer. You let this play out in my office while collecting my paycheck. Nobody breathed. I'm not starting a witch hunt, I said. I'm not digging through gossip or interrogating people. But from this moment on, this is the standard. I laid it out. No romantic or physical relationships on company property, I said. No closed-door meetups that aren't about work. If you're in a relationship with someone here, you disclose it to HR or you don't work here. If I find out you're using my building for anything that puts this place at risk, you're gone. No second chances. I looked around the room one more time. You want drama, you want secrets, you want to play with other people's families. Do it somewhere else. Not under my roof. Not on my dime. When I finished, there was nothing to add. No motivational quote. No "we're a family" lie. Just reality. You've all got jobs to do, I said finally. Get to them. They broke apart slowly, like a frozen lake cracking. Some avoided me entirely. Some clapped my shoulder on the way back to their stations. A few looked like they wanted to say more and thought better of it. Around lunch, there was a knock on my office door. 2 employees stepped in, Jenna from the front office and one of the guys from shipping. Both looked like they were headed to a firing squad. We knew something, Jenna said, voice small. Not everything, just enough to suspect. We didn't say anything because we didn't want to get involved. I let the silence stretch. I'm not going to fire you, I said finally. You did your jobs. But understand this, there's a gap now. Between what I thought I could trust and what I actually can. That doesn't close because you're sorry once. They both nodded, eyes wet, then left. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the ceiling fan, and let the weight settle in. I'd lost a wife and a manager in the same week. I'd also found out who in my building would speak up when something was wrong. Not as many as I'd hoped. But the line was drawn now. In public. In my own voice. And once I draw a line, I don't move it. The weeks after the video felt less like living and more like maintenance. I treated the house like a hotel room, shower, change, sleep. Everything else happened at the factory. I started getting there before sunrise, unlocking the doors in the dark, walking the floor while the machines were still quiet. Metal, concrete, schedules, those things made sense. People didn't. Tom handled the divorce like he was tightening bolts on a frame. He filed the papers fast. Grounds. Adultery. Supported by extensive visual documentation. That was the polite way to say your wife used your office like a cheap motel and smiled about it. We sat side by side at his conference table going through evidence. He had the security footage organized in folders, still images printed and paper-clipped, timestamps highlighted. This one, he said, tapping a frame where Lauren and Mike were laughing on my desk, is especially useful. Workday. Your calendar says you were off-site. That's clear adultery during business hours on your property. The judge won't like that. I don't like it either, I said. He glanced at me. You holding up? I'm functional, I said. That's enough. The court wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no big TV scenes. Just a tired judge, a stenographer who'd seen it all, and 2 people who used to share a bed now sitting at separate tables pretending they were strangers. Lauren tried the angle I knew she would. I supported him while he built that business, she told the judge. I went to events, helped with networking, and gave marketing advice. That factory is part of our marital success. I deserve half. Tom didn't argue with emotion. He just hit play. Clips of her and Mike in my office. Different days. Different dresses. Same disrespect. The judge watched, stone-faced. When the soundless clip of her saying he'll never suspect a thing came up, Tom read the line into the record. The judge held up a hand. That's enough, he said. I've seen plenty. The ruling came down clean. Divorce granted. No alimony. She kept the car in her name, some furniture, and a reasonable share of our joint account. The business stayed mine. Future earnings untouchable. Her request for a larger percentage was denied. On paper, it was a win. Out in the real world, the cost of it didn't mean anything kept stacking up. Word travels fast in a regional manufacturing circle. Buyers talk. Vendors gossip. People pretend they don't take sides, but they do. Lauren's agency started getting quiet snubs. Longtime clients reevaluating contracts. One of the bigger accounts, a mutual contact between my plant and her firm, pulled their marketing work completely. Image concerns, they told her boss. Translation: we don't want the woman from the viral cheating video representing our brand. They put her on temporary unpaid leave while they figured out what to do. She went from managing campaigns to sitting in a small apartment trying to scare up freelance scraps from people who still took her calls. Mike didn't fare better. His wife filed for divorce 2 weeks after the video hit, using the same footage. She got the house, primary custody, and no interest in keeping his last name. He moved into a rental on the bad side of town. Finding work was worse for him than for her. There are only so many production manager spots within driving distance. None of the plant owners I knew wanted a man whose most famous achievement was screwing the boss's wife on camera. He picked up shifts at a smaller outfit an hour away, lower pay, worse hours. Word was he didn't last long there either. People asked me sometimes if I felt vindicated, if it felt good watching their lives grind down. The truth was simpler. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel bad. I just watched the math do what math does. Choices, consequences. They said it didn't mean anything. The world disagreed. About 3 months after the divorce was final, life had settled into something that looked normal from the outside. The factory was steady. Orders were coming in on time. Payroll cleared every 2 weeks. No major breakdowns. I still woke up earlier than I needed to, still checked emails over black coffee, still drove the same route past the same houses. The noise around the video quieted down. New scandals showed up online, people moved on to fresher meat. In a small town, they never really forget, but they get bored. One Saturday, I was at the grocery store doing what married couples usually do together. Only I was alone, pushing a cart with a short list in my pocket. Milk, eggs, chicken, coffee, stuff I didn't need help deciding on. I wasn't thinking about Lauren. I was half distracted, running through production numbers in my head, wondering if we could justify another hire for the second shift. The place was busy, kids whining near the cereal, some old guy blocking the aisle with his cart, a teenager stocking shelves with dead eyes and headphones. I turned the corner toward the checkout lanes and saw her. Lauren was in line with one of those small plastic baskets in her hand instead of a cart. Hair pulled back in a loose knot. No makeup I could see from where I stood. Clothes plain, jeans, a washed-out sweater. She looked smaller somehow, like someone had let the air out of her. There were dark circles under her eyes, the kind you don't get rid of with concealer and a good night's sleep. She saw me about 2 seconds after I saw her. Her body stiffened, mouth open like she had a line ready, then closed again. The cashier was scanning her things. Just a few basics. Bread, instant noodles, cheap coffee. Nothing you buy when you're entertaining or doing well. Survival groceries. We held eye contact for a moment that felt stretched but not dramatic. No soundtrack, just the beep of barcodes and the murmur of other people's conversations. I waited for something big to hit. Rage, sadness, nostalgia. The kind of emotion that knocks you sideways. Nothing came. No urge to walk over and ask why again. No desire to throw the past in her face. No quiet hope that she'd apologize and somehow make it all make sense. All I felt was distance. The kind you get when you run into someone you used to work with years ago and can't remember if their kid's name was Jake or Jack. She half lifted a hand, like she might wave. I gave her a small nod instead. Neutral. Acknowledgement without invitation. That was it. I steered my cart past her lane to an empty one, unloaded my stuff, and answered the cashier's small talk. Lauren paid, bagged her own food, and walked out without looking back. On the drive home, I waited for the delayed reaction. It never showed. I realized somewhere between the stoplights that whatever part of me had been married to her wasn't active duty anymore. It wasn't wounded or bleeding. It was just off. Power cut. Switch flipped. Later, a mutual acquaintance mentioned she was renting a small apartment across town, picking up freelance marketing work, trying to rebuild her reputation. I listened, nodded, and changed the subject. She used to be the center of my daily orbit. Now she was a piece of local trivia. Something that happened once in this town, like a big storm or a plant closing. That day in the grocery store aisle didn't give me fireworks or closure speech material. It gave me something better. Proof that my life had already moved on without waiting for my permission. The factory had been the crime scene, so that's where I started the rebuild. The first move was replacing Mike. I didn't promote from inside. Too much history. Too many quiet loyalties I couldn't map. I called a supplier I trusted and told him exactly what I needed. Production manager, I said. Competent, boring, loyal. I don't care if they're fun at parties. I care if they show up. He sent me 3 resumes. One stood out. Sarah Collins. 10 years in manufacturing, good references, a reputation for being direct. She came in for an interview wearing steel-toe boots and a plain blouse, hair tied back. Firm handshake, clear eyes. I'm not here to be anybody's buddy, she said. I'm here to keep your floor running. You keep it running, I said, and I'll stay out of your way. I hired her the next day. With Sarah handling production, I went after the culture. We rewrote the conduct policy and printed it big, posted it where everyone could see. No gray area, no hidden lines. Relationships had to be disclosed. No closed-door meetings without a work reason. Cameras weren't just there. They were obvious now. I didn't pretend it was about trust. It was about clarity. I told them straight, you come here to earn a living. You leave with your check and your dignity. You want to wreck your home life? Do it somewhere that doesn't have my logo on the wall. Some people left over the next few months. Could have been the stricter rules, could have been the pressure. I didn't chase them. The ones who stayed worked harder, spoke cleaner, laughed looser. They'd seen me take a hit and not fold. That buys a different kind of respect. Business followed. Orders ticked up. A new regional contract pushed our numbers 20% higher the next year. We upgraded a machine, added a couple of positions, and paid a small bonus at Christmas. Outside of work, I started saying yes when friends called. Dinner, a game, a backyard cookout. Not hunting for a replacement wife, not building a profile, just showing up where I was invited and leaving when I felt like it. Online, the video got buried under 1,000 newer scandals. In town, people still remembered. Some nodded a little too kindly when they saw me. Some avoided eye contact. Some clearly chose her side, not mine. I stopped keeping score. My job wasn't to fix their perception. My job was to unlock my doors in the morning, keep the line moving, sign paychecks that didn't bounce, and go home to a house that felt clean. Not because nothing bad had ever happened there, but because I'd thrown out what didn't belong. A year after the scandal, I found myself back where it started. Another year-end party for the factory. Different venues this time. Brighter place on the other side of town. High ceilings, wide open floor. No dark corners. No side gardens where people could disappear. Lights everywhere. If you wanted to sneak around, you'd have to do it in full view. I walked in alone. No red dress at my side. Just a plain suit and a clear head. The room felt different. Lighter. Music going, people laughing, the kind of easy energy that doesn't come from pretending. Sarah had fought me to get a better DJ and real food this time. Carving station, decent bar, no frozen appetizers. You want them to be loyal? She'd said. Show them you see them. She wasn't wrong. I moved through the crowd the way I always did. Shaking hands, asking about kids, thanking people for grinding through another year. Only this time, there was no second life running behind my back. No inside jokes I wasn't part of. At some point, Sarah found me near the edge of the dance floor and handed me a glass of champagne. To survive, she said. We did more than survive, I answered. She nodded. Yeah, we did. She went back to the team, pulled into a circle of people arguing over song requests. I stood there for a moment and let the scene sink in. No whispers when I walked by. No pity staring me in the face. Just a man who owned a factory and the people who'd chosen to stay on with him after it got ugly. On the drive home, the night was quiet. I thought about Lauren for the first time in weeks. Not with heat, just curiosity. Where she was, what she was doing. Passed fast. I didn't forgive her. I didn't need to. Forgiveness implies I'm still holding the bill. I'd already paid what I owed and walked away from the table. I parked in front of the same house we used to share. Same driveway, same front door, same faint scuff on the frame from when we moved the couch in. Inside, it felt different. No tension in the walls. No ghost arguments in the hallway. Just my space, my things, my silence. I turned off the downstairs lights, walked up the stairs, and sat on the edge of my bed for a second before lying down. No dramatic revenge. No grand speech. No perfect closure. Just a simple truth. She broke what we had. The internet laughed. I stayed standing, kept my name, kept my work, and built a life that didn't need her in it. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just going to sleep in a quiet house that finally, fully belongs to you.